Hey, we are still continuing to look for all of the most interesting security people we can find. We find the technology, but every now and again, we like to talk about the carbon-based beings. Jessy Irwin, that is your specialty. Let's talk about it. Tell me what you got going on.
So the way that I like to look at security really comes from looking at how human beings work. And a lot of the time we get very excited about technology and systems, but something I'm tired of hearing is that every time a security system fails, it's the user's fault.
Of course.
I really don't think that speaking poorly of users makes security better. It doesn't make us better, and it doesn't make their chances of success any better too. So my favorite thing about coming to Hacker Summer Camp and going to Black Hat is really looking for the talks that are human-centric. And they talk about the whens and hows and whys and the ugly parts of how we need to change systems to make them work for people.
A lot of times you hear the cliche, something to the effect of, we want to protect sales from themselves or protect, humans from themselves, but that's not really your angle. Are we bringing, we'll fix this in post. We're not like looking to create some cyborg here, but the integration of the people and the technology. It's not just training, right? There's a lot more involved.
There's a lot more involved. When we are looking at how technology works and how people approach technology tools and security tasks, we have to deal with more than just putting some buttons on the screen. Some of the most vital things we need to really address are how people feel when they're performing a task. If it makes them feel bad or if it's super hard, it's not going to happen the way that we want it to happen. We also really need to understand the perspective that the average non-technical, non-expert user is coming from. They shouldn't have to become experts to be able to appropriately use the tools and carry out the tasks that we ask them to do. And we really need to come at designing our systems, designing our software, even designing documentation and communications for users where they are centered around that non-expert, non-technical person, and they are really about solving some of the inadequacies that we have in security all of the time. We have to have information presented at the right time. We also have to frame it the right way and present the words in not too long context, no walls of text, but short bullet points and easy to carry out things with information that will improve a user's life overall, not just a work task or one password somewhere that doesn't really matter.
Now this is the great stuff, because a lot of the people who consider themselves hardcore security folks, they feel that the technology is 100% because it's always a people failure. You're talking about some of the squishy bits about emotions and how those come into play. And yes, people pound the spacebar and the enter key. What can companies do, organizations do to strengthen that notion that the emotions do matter and it can improve their overall security approach?
So I was just in a great talk that Lori Craner gave about doing user awareness studies in an attack environment, when an attack was happening. And there were ways that she talked about doing this without harm, but first and foremost, getting feedback from your users, whether it's your end user who is your customer or your users inside of your organization, is really important. And then making sure that you trust that information or you believe that information is also important, because if you get a ton of feedback you don't agree with and dismiss it, that doesn't help any of the metrics that you're measuring. It doesn't help your security education posture at all. And it's not going to help all of those bottom line metrics that you're getting in all of those fancy dashboards and reports.
So for people that are feeling inspired now and they are going to look at their people in a new way, any good sites, any place they can go for research, find out more about what you're talking about, more about what you're doing?
Sure. There's a ton of really great research out there. There's a ton of great information that comes out of the SOUPS conference that happens every year during the summer. There's some interesting things out of Usenix conferences as well. I try to share those as often as possible. And I'm constantly looking for great examples where people build relationships, build trust, and build opportunities to really connect with others about the role of security and technology in their own lives. So I always tweet about it on my Twitter account. I'm Jessysaurusrex with both raptors of authentication. 2 raptors. But I try my best to really make sure that I am singing the song of all of us usability and human-centered people.
So we are people. If you're going to be using Twitter, by definition, you have to be a Twitter person, or, well, a bot, I guess, created by a person. But make sure you follow Jessy. We're going to keep bringing you all the experts we can find. We want to make sure you know what you're doing. Stick around.